And I think what I want to try and do is talk about where this comes from, where it's going, and if you really want to fight this, you need to follow the money, because it's really all about money. And if we physicians keep being herded like sheep by these outside forces, we're going to continue to be fleeced. So, keeping up, how best to do so? This is a quote from someone at The Ohio State University, one of the family practice guys. If you read 2 articles per day of the 6 million articles published annually, in 1 year, you'll be 82 centuries behind in your reading. It's impossible to keep up with everything. Granted, there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't probably worth reading, that isn't really science, but these things get published, and then they can be selectively published to meet a need, as we'll find out with this maintenance of licensure issue, to help undermine physicians in their practice. CME has been around in Ohio since 1975. We have 50 CME credits per year. There's 12 states that have that. There are some states with no requirements whatsoever. CME has been the traditional way for us to create some would say an illusion of competency, but how we keep up in our practice and educating ourselves. You cannot practice without maintaining your education as you go along. Every patient is a test. If you don't pass those tests, you're going to fail, and there will be plenty of people out there looking to get you, and I'll show you who some of them are. CME is there. We all believe in continuing medical education to keep ourselves up to date. That is no question. But this project of the Federation of State Medical Boards and the American Board of Medical Specialties is a money-making procedure, as I'll get into a little bit here. This is, wherever you see this, it's from the state of Ohio. These are their slides. I'm reproducing them. If you want to fight an argument, take their own data. That is the best way to do that. And the one thing good about Ohio is it's very online. They have very good Freedom of Information Act laws. And the data is there, but you have to get it, and you have to know how to get it, and you got to know what to ask to get it. But I think this is very representative of the nation as a whole, because, well, Ohio always picks the right president, too. Okay, maintenance of licensure, that is MOL, and I like to refer to this process as MOL as station, because it really pretty much is. You know, the state medical board argues, well, you get an initial license, you're fresh out of residency, you've all been tested in that, but what about renewal? There's really no test, no way to update to assure us that you're doing a good job. Well, and they always make an analogy to pilots. Pilots take off and land, and when they recertify, you took off 400 times, you landed, no problems, you recertify, you do have to do a physical. That's pretty much it. But now they're trying to make it, for us, another hurdle, and a whole industry, a certification industry is out there on our backs. We're all familiar with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. If it's one of their products, they make sure that whoever sold you something will give you your money back. That is not true with the American Board of Medical Specialties. These are thousands of dollars in fees, $2,000 to take a test, $2,000 to register for a test. It's a test. I've never learned anything for or from one of these medical tests. We are good doctors. That is why we get board certified. We are not good doctors because we are board certified. It's a test, and that's all it is. You know, you've seen this on your electrical appliances. The Federation of State Medical Boards is out there. They've been around for almost 100 years with the ACGME, with the AMA. They've been there so long, they're ingrained in all the academic endeavors in medicine, and along with the AMA Recognition Award, which is trademarked. CME is a trademark phenomenon of the AMA, and everybody makes a little money, so one hand washes the other. It's a national nonprofit corporation. It claims to represent the American medical boards, the 70 boards, and in a state fashion, Guam, other places as well. But they are a nonprofit organization, a private interest group, and one of their private interests is themselves. They're in collusion with the American Board of Medical Specialties, those people who give us our boards, and together they are propagating this concept of making every physician line up every year, buy their products, take their tests, and support them financially. I'm going to move forward rather fast. So this is their program. They want to have component 1 is CME. They want to have component 2, which is a test, and they want it every 5 to 6 years, not every 10. They have been slowly transitioning this in. In 2000, they started with the concept of 10-year recertification. That's only the first step, and they're heading for every 5 years a test, every 5 years a practice improvement module, which costs a lot of money. Some family practitioners have gone online, done these things for free online, submitted to the family practice boards, and we're told, well, you need to pay us $700 for us to recognize it. I mean, follow the money. Okay, in 11 states, they're starting their projects, and Ohio is one of them. And I think the projects are going into states where members of the state medical boards are either on or working actively within the Federation of State Medical Boards, and that's probably the main impetus to get this done. There are 2 members of Ohio State Medical Board that are big-time players in this FSMB. And this is from the emergency medicine. This came out in the paper just a week ago. These are the things, pass tests for 10-year certification. The new stuff here, you've got to get 25 AMA credits per year, and now some of the societies for the various boards, the Emergency Medicine Society or the Anesthesia Society, are colluding, and they're saying, well, now you have to take your society's CME products to get this kind of credit. So the money's moving back and forth, and the other thing you have to realize is that your societies, your specialty societies, by and large, are also board members of your American Board of whatever. And so there's very close affiliation there, and you will run into a headstrong win whenever you try to argue with them in any way that this should be anything but perfect. And if you don't complete your requirements, they will change your status to clinically inactive. Now, on the original slide, I posted that I was certified in '89 and I recertified in 2005, but just a few months ago, I received a letter that indicated that I'm not participating in MOCA because I haven't told them about all the credits that I have, that I haven't sent them that information, and they will post it online, and all I can say is, that's right, you're darn right, I'm not participating anymore. To not participate is probably one means of active opposition to the boards. And they post it on the internet. It's a threat. It's a true threat because this is advertisement that's out there indicating that you are something less than a good physician. Now, what about the money? I said follow the money. These are the assets of these boards, and you'll find that family medicine, internal medicine, and pediatrics have a lot of money and assets over the many years they've been there, realizing that family medicine hasn't been around that long. It, oddly enough, has a very large number of assets because from day one, they had the 10-year cycle to make this money happen. And these are the gross receipts. And together, it's a $350 million a year gross receipt product on the backs of working physicians. And if it gets to be 10 years for everybody, we'll see that's not where it is. We are going to be paying a lot more than that. The CEO salaries, the PEDS is $1.2 million if we look here, I'll move to the next slide. This is their gross receipts, $20 million a year for the PEDS boards, and they've actually only made $2 million, but they're paying Dr. Stockman $1.93 million a year. That's as much as the whole thing is generating. So it's a very pyramid-type scheme phenomenon, and if you go to changeboardresearch.com, that's an organization we should all become aware of. You can look up any of your boards, 2009, because they're the most recent ones on file. You can get onto guidestar.com and look it up, the more recent ones as they're coming out, and see what they're making off of you and the rest of your colleagues. But at the same time, I'm an anesthesiologist. I apologize, and many of you probably are not. But the ASA stated back in 2010 that they're not going to bother with reimbursement bonuses offered by the Medicare Medicaid service rules because it won't pay for this board recertification policies. The ABMS is the motherboard, if you would, and we have all our 24 specialty boards. And this motherboard has been pushing from day one to try, since 2000, to get everyone on board. And many of the boards, like the anesthesia board, said, we really don't need this. Gee, we all work at hospitals. We got hospital boards. We got state boards. Everybody's looking at us. We don't need to recertify. There's not that much changes in anesthesia, oddly enough. But they want this program to go through. They're pushing it. There's money to be made. And now that the ABA has caught on to that, and the American Society of Anesthesiologists, everyone is falling in sync with this, and there's money to be made. And it's been pushed from the motherboard, and those who've tried not to do that, ACOG, the gynecologist, I'm told, they tried to fight it, and they were told, either you line up and get on line with this program, or we're going to revoke your certification as a board. So they had no choice in the matter. This indicates basically that Ohio has a very online, open, friendly means of finding information, and that has served me well. So if you want to fight it in your state, these first 11 states are online this year. You may be next. You want to pay attention to how to best fight this. Here in Ohio, we have Lance Talmadge. He's on the state medical board, and he's going to be on the board of directors at the FSMB. And Richard Whitehouse is a lawyer who's in charge. He's the director of the Ohio State Medical Board, and he's a member. And I've identified this as a conflict of interest, which they would openly refuse to be as such, but nonetheless, they only see the FSMB objective in creating a relicensing phenomenon. We've got our CMEs. We could have physical examinations. There's so many ways one could have university systems provide us with condensed versions of what we need to know, as ACOG has tried to do, to help us find out those 10 really pertinent articles a year from the millions that are out there. But these people only see the FSMB goal, and because the American Board of whatever is such a huge phenomenon, about 75% of all physicians have been boarded. And we all know, back when we were a boy, we went 10 miles uphill through 4 feet of snow and did the same 10 miles uphill coming back, so that physicians tend to say, it's too easy on those that are coming behind us. There's a trend to try to make life very difficult for ourselves, as well as the money factor in play with these boards. But we have to combat that because we only have one life, and at 50 hours a week, how much time do you really want to spend turning your wheels, trying to learn unusual answers to questions to meet a financial need of your board? I went to the Ohio State Medical Association. We passed a resolution that the OSMA says that we will not try to implement anything other than those currently in place, whereby we resolve that, yes, we need a task force because we want to support continuing ongoing education of our members. But you have to go to your, and the uniqueness of this is that in Ohio, the CME requirement has to be passed from the OSMA and the osteopaths before the board should make it law. So we have a chance to fight this that may not be present in your state when it comes. So let's go back to the data. Why would they want to go there? The Ohio Board Complaint System, about 4,000 complaints a year. Most of them, they look into it, they just close it. After looking into it, some are closed before they even look at it, but the actions taken are very few relative. And if you look at why they do it, criminal acts, Medicare fraud, whatever illegal things you do is a reason to pull your license. Impairment, which is defined as drug abuse or alcohol abuse. And bootstrap actions are things that are referred in from out of state. They make up well over 70% of it. Disciplinary actions, now this is the breakdown over several years, and this is this year's. They had a trouble with pill mills that has made it jump to problem number 2. But it's basically alcohol and drug abuse, prescribing issues, and criminal actions, i.e. fraud, sleeping with your patients, things you really shouldn't be doing that fall under moral turpitude. But there's no issue about competency anywhere to be found. And if you look at the State Medical Board of Ohio, not only does doctors, but also mechanotherapists, PAs, radiology assistants, etc. But only 68% of them are complete physician licenses, that is out of residency. And if you take all physicians, including the trading certificates, it's about 76%. So all these actions you're going to see include everybody by and large, except for one slide, which shows that here with 211 actions, there were only 148. That's roughly 75%, which says physicians are no different than any other specialty. People have emotional and physical frailties, they commit crimes, they do bad things, they drink too much, just like anybody else. I think that's not a surprise. But all actions, again, it's way less than 1%. It's probably less than 0.3%, as I will show. By license type, it breaks down. The numbers are here. Physicians and DOs are the biggest numbers, but massage therapists, which also make up about 15%, they also have relatively large numbers. Now, this is, again, the Ohio Board of Medicines. This is their poster child, one sick bastard, it says there, excuse my French. And this is how they try to look at us because impairment seems to be such an issue to them. And I only project this to say that impairment specifically defined by law is drug and alcohol or other substance abuse, not mental impairment in any fashion or, let's say, senility, okay? But why are we doing disciplinary actions? If you look down the list, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, child support problems come up, criminal actions and conviction. The big ones, actions by other state agencies, criminal actions, and here impairment, and again now prescribing issues have come up. But nowhere is competency even listed on this report, and there's a good reason, because there isn't any. They also have a program where if people have trouble with their practice or practicing efficiently or effectively, they can be brought in and educated and treated. But the numbers are fairly low, 100 people out of over 42,000 physicians in Ohio. And it's typically something wrong with the way you fill out your charts or your reimbursement forms. It's not like you're not practicing good medicine. Follow the money, I said. The nursing board, they have 250,000 licensees. They have 2,000 actions a year. The board, the medical board, has 64,000, of which a lot less are doctors. But look at the money. The nurses get by on 11,000 every 2 years, 11 million, excuse me. The state medical board spends 16 million to try to find problems with these people, and they're very, very small numbers. I'd like to know what they're really doing with all that money. I know, but I can't go into every detail today. So what do? They issue licenses, they look at complaints, they review them, citation letters, administrative hearings. They also lecture throughout the state. They have 106 different lectures they gave last year, which all costed a good deal of money. Oddly enough, for the last 2 years, they decided they would not publish a year-end report. A $16 million a year business that doesn't provide a fiscal report? What's that all about? Every one of us does it on April 15th every year. So evidence that physicians are not maintaining competency is really not there. You can find articles which describe it as a problem, but the reality of that is that these are people who are paid by the ABMS or other agencies to write these things, and the science behind it is really not science, it's more opinion. This is from a Gallup poll sponsored by the ABMS, and they asked, is your primary board doctor, is your doctor board certified? 72% said yes. Very important that they're board certified. But if they look, have you ever asked or checked, 64% said no. The basis of this study was they had the Gallup poll do it because they're a very well-known group to do these sort of things. And there was education that was ongoing throughout these questions. Already we're up to 13 in this procedures here. And why test people every 5 years? Because they asked, and because people said, well, they'd like it every 5 to 6 years. That's where the big numbers jump in there. But I bet you if you asked them, should healthcare be free? Everybody would say yes. It's not going to be free, I guarantee you. So this Gallup poll was sponsored by the ABMS. They came up with a strategy to produce it in an effective way to come up and get the answers they wanted. And now we're dealing with this as if it were science. I took an afternoon off. I went out and asked 100 people going in and out of a 7-Eleven store at a gas station, why do you go to a doctor and why do you stay with him? They were referred by family or friends or another doctor. They liked his personality. They felt he was competent. There were small other reasons that didn't play a big role. And insurance factors were surprisingly uncommon, and availability as well. He's the guy in town or whatever. But no one ever mentioned board certification whatsoever. If it truly was as evident in the Gallup poll that everybody wanted a board-certified doctor, someone would have said it. If they're showing a 75% importance rate, why didn't I find anyone when I asked an open question without any education in the matter? But whatever happened to being innocent until proven guilty? Well, testing, this FSMB, these are the people that gave us the ECFMG, the FLEX, the FLEX, and now the USMLE. They are used to testing people coming through educational programs, and basically over the last 100 years, there was a need for that. And this may surprise you, 25% of all physicians practicing in the United States today are foreign medical graduates, and I'm one of them. And there's a study from one of these guys who also wrote some of these papers for the ABMS, who states foreign-born foreign medical graduates actually perform better than US-educated graduates or US-educated foreign medical graduates like myself. It's all about your drive and your urge and your intensity in learning and maintaining care. These tests really don't have a lot to say. But the point I want to make here is, if you look down here, I wrote the board, I said, okay, I can't get the information out of this online stuff. How many physicians received an action by the State Board of Medicine in Ohio in 2011 because of competency? 5 out of 42,000 physicians, which is 0.01%. So we're all going to go out and spend probably $2,000 to $5,000 a year to recertify and maintain our board status because insurance companies might want it. The state might demand that you have it because of 5 physicians a year. What kind of test would you write out in your practice on every patient you saw looking for 5 out of 42,000 patients? This is not evidence-based. And the thing that really kicks me in the teeth is that Dr. Castle, who is the CEO of the Board of Internal Medicine, has come up with this program that we're supposedly all buy into about doing only the tests that are indicated. Well, this test, board certification, recertification, it's just not indicated. There are other problems for making maintenance of licensure an issue. Only 2,000 of the practicing 800,000 physicians are currently enrolled in the MOC process. That's less than 25%. Women and underrepresented minority students were found to display significantly lower levels of board certification. 9 years after medical school graduation in 2000, they graduated in 2000, only 35% of female OBGYNs were certified in 2009. Well, I understand what that's all about. This is their childbearing years. They went through medical school. They're up to their necks in debt. They have a few kids. They don't have time to go after these board certifications. And this is a measure of active problem making for females in the medical practice because of these reality of life issues. But they meet all of us. Everybody here works 50 hours a week. Where are you going to find the time to keep up with all this certification, recertification at great cost? And for the expenditures going to these people who are by and large academic individuals, most of them probably only practice 10 hours of clinical medicine a week if they're lucky because they're on university department heads, things like that. And they're infiltrated with multiple non-physicians, I call it infiltration, typically with MBAs to try and jazz up the financial structure of these groups because it's 2012, things are getting expensive. Only 73% of all practicing anesthesiologists are board certified. This is data I can provide. And half of practicing anesthesiologists currently possess lifelong certification obtained prior to the 2000. So half of the people may not even be eligible to get into the recertification process to maintain their license. I went and as an anesthesiologist and a member of the ASA, I was able to contact the Anesthesia Closed Claims Project. For the past 40 years, they've been taking from large malpractice companies all the data relating to anesthesia. And I asked them, go from year 1990 to 1999, before this 10-year cycle business ever came up, and you tell me actions against board certified versus non-board certified anesthesiologists. If truly board certification makes you such an excellent doctor, and that's not my contention, people who are good get board certified, and not the other way around. They said that there was no statistically significant difference between the two groups because they gave one set of numbers for both groups. How could they be different? They were so similar, they were exactly the same numbers. And this is how it broke down. So from this alone, I think it's very difficult to state that board certification adds much of anything to your practice other than time away from home and money spent. Again, this is from the extrapolated from journals that are out there. Physicians with active licenses. There are some people, as you go down, that have up to 4 different board certifications. If you have to do this in 4 different certificates, you're going to go crazy, I think, trying to keep up. This will be a dying breed. Active licenses are here, DOs with active licenses. But if you look at the board certification rates in here, it's in a pie chart form. This is from the United States, and this is in the state of Ohio. We see that time-limited certificates, 35%. These are the people in the 10-year cycle. Physicians without any board certification whatsoever, in active practice, doing well, they practice well, is 29%. And this is the people who have lifelong, or grandfathers as you would. So right now, this is the small portion, and this is why they're starting now, because this portion will have to grow because this portion is going to die off, and these probably will have to disappear entirely if states move down this road. The time to stop it is now. And I've been working very hard in Ohio to do that through the OSMA, the Ohio State Medical Association. You have to work with the associations that you have. You have to realize that these licensure things are given to the states by the United States Constitution. The problem with the Federation of State Medical Boards is they want to be a nationwide organization. They have some collusion factors with individuals on various state boards where they can get things going and then present this as a national initiative. But if they can get into your state and pass the laws, you will line up and you will need to go down this road. But again, who else is watching physicians? If there really isn't that big of a deal of incompetency and board certification goes towards competence, what's it all about? Well, the DEA, the Office of the Inspector General, Attorney General, Industrial Commission, Medicare, Medicaid, there's plenty of people out there looking after us. Now there are even more people who want to get in on the money train, and it's the recycled every 10 years certification program. In anesthesia, we have to do simulation if we want to recertify. Now there have been a number of simulation centers that have sprung up, and for $2,000, you can go there for 6 hours. You might spend 2 hours yourself on the simulator, and it'll only cost you $2,000 to do, plus travel and other factors that come into play. This is not going to be cheap, and this is starting. Figure in 10 years, it'll be 10 times as much. So what about the pass-fail rates now? If you look at first-time takers, the rates vary between 87% and 94% for everyone in the American Board of Internal Medicine. I picked them because they happen to publish their information. But is every specialty equal? Did you know there are 167 different board-certified certificates that you could purchase? And I say purchase because that's what you're doing. And if you look at the numbers, you can have a pass rate of 98% or 73%. These are not equality for everybody. These are very specialty defined, and you have to realize the right or the license to practice medicine is a basic requirement and not a specialist requirement. Does it really make sense to require specialty level? What about the guys who just get out of residency? They haven't even become board certified yet, and in some specialties it can take several years before you become eligible. There are a lot of problems with this program, and you need to know what they are so you can point that out to your legislator or your state board if this comes up in your state. And remember my name. If you ever have questions, come back to me. I've been doing this for 2 years. There's a lot of things that you can pay attention to. And you know, fail rate variability again here in the different specialties, 74%. Go be a cardiologist. I guess it's pretty simple once you get in there. Everybody seems to pass. Well, these tests are being generated. You got to realize too, the board tests go to the societies, recruit individuals in the societies to give them questions so that they can create the test. They don't even, they don't even hire people to create the test. They just lump it all together, do a statistical analysis, present it for you to pass or fail, as well as the many other things there. Lee Goldman is a very renowned professor in Boston. This was in the New England Journal of Medicine back in March of 2010. And they asked, your grandfather, you don't need to recertify, should you bother? And this is a pro-con argument, and it's worth reading if you want to take the time. But he's a very renowned man. He's very much into risk management in anesthesia and surgery. Everybody knows his name. Support the concept of recertification, but cannot advise the physician in this vignette to engage in the MOC program as currently constituted. And it was simpler back then. It's only getting more and more complex and costly as time goes on. And this is the results of the nationwide survey that resulted from those questions. 64% of the physicians who answered to the New England Journal of Medicine in the United States said, we wouldn't want to recertify. There's really no value in it. And yet it's being sold to us. I'm sure everybody here is board certified, probably 95% of you. And if you're not, that's all right. You know, I don't have a problem with that. You're competent, you're working, you pass the test every day. But do we need to line up and keep paying for this? So the states have the right to legislate. It's going to have to be fought probably in every state unless we can go a roundabout way and find a measure to take it to court and challenge it. And I think the racketeering laws, because this is indeed a racket, they create a need. They say, you need to have my certification if you're going to practice in many hospitals or if that insurance company is going to take you. And now if we can get the state to make sure that you have to do this to license, I mean, you know, the Godfather went down there. He killed the previous Godfather. Then he set up his scheme out on the streets of New York, making sure everyone paid him the money. And that really isn't any different than this. But first, you got to have a damage. And it's going to take one individual to stand up and say, It's a racket because they're hurting me. They're stopping interstate transport, i.e. job search, provision of medical care across state lines. Then the feds has to get involved. And I'm sure this will come up. Creating a useful board, that's something I think we're going to talk about a little later today because I have to stop. I'm running out of time. There are ways to do this. The problems with a board is that, again, hospitals, insurance companies may require you to have it. Again, we don't have physicians anymore. We just service those of insurance industries, it seems. We need to create our own board for all physicians, not for individual specialties, to be able to take care of everyone at one time. We have to be fair, we have to be validated, we have to be reasonable, and we have to actually be effective in doing this as a national organization, and that is why I think the AAPS is so important. So I'll stop and take a few questions because I'm out of time.